me because it's my first time experimenting with radio as a medium for my practice. It stems from a kind of a series of ideas with a potential outcome and a criticality around the media and the community I'm working with.
Folk Radio, which is based here at the Expo in Kilnaboy, County Clare. It's an artist-led project conceived by Tom Flanagan, who's a Galway-based artist, and we've been commissioned to produce this project by Clare County Council's Gaining Ground Public Art Programme 2017 to 2020.
The recordings have been going on since the 3rd of February, 24/7. 6 hours, 2 hours live broadcast on a loop, pre-recorded. So it starts at 2 p.m. and it keeps going around then on a loop, 2 to 8 and then around on a loop. And then there's 2 hours live broadcasting in the middle of that pre-recorded stuff.
Okay.
Tom Flanagan, with whom I've worked in the past, was a really obvious choice. He's already worked in community radio, and the idea of kind of looking at the future function of Expo, but this time through the idea of the building almost as a kind of amplifier for the different voices and the different kind of emotional, social, cultural investments that people have, was what led to Folk Radio. His project in Dublin.
It was an opportunity to, well, first of all, work with a really unique community that's developed here in the XPO over the last 12 years. But also it was an opportunity to take the medium of radio, which is a very familiar, common medium of the people, and use it as a way to kind of propose a different kind of way of experiencing it.
The start of the project was Tom Flanagan coming in, introducing himself and moving amongst us, setting up the studio as part of the project, and training any of us that were interested in using the studio equipment and some of the software, and trying to get some radio content out.
Hi, you're listening to Kilnaboy Folk Radio, 87.9 FM, and you'll find us on the web. I'm Colin Johnson, and I'm in studio here with Sven Anderson and Tom Flanagan.
Hello. Hey, how you doing?
I've made an apprentice piece, I would say, which is about soundscapes. It's particularly about Bernie Krause, who was an early electronic music pioneer from California. Recorded some interesting Moog synthesizer stuff, but from the start he was also interested in recording the sounds of nature, and he eventually founded a new discipline of what you might call acoustic ecology.
I had a series of objectives really when I started the project, and one of them was to experiment with the radio medium itself, think about ways in which the community that's developed around the XPO could expand its ideas to a kind of wider network of people in North Clare. And it was kind of a proposition for an alternative creative form on the airwaves. So this place was a kind of perfect melting pot, I suppose, of people and creative people and ideas to kind of do that experiment.
When I wave, that means we're on air, and some discipline might be required from the audience.
Deirdre Mahoney, who set up the XPO initially, wanted this kind of alternative space for dialogue around things that were important or affecting people in the rural. There's so many fascinating projects have come out of this place. The fact that it's kind of sustained into its 13th year as this really unique kind of cultural hub, where things happen here in the XPO that you just don't happen in other kind of places in rural communities.
I just need to get it live now on Facebook.
And the radio project was really an opportunity to take some of that and bring it to a much wider community. It was an extension of that idea, but rather than trying to bring people into this place, it was bring this place to the people as such.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to XPO Folk Radio, and we're coming to you live from the XPO in Kilnaboy. This is, I suppose, a historical moment for folk radio here. This is the kind of the culmination, really, of this project, and we have an exciting day of live broadcast for you. We're going to start off with a panel discussion, followed by some live music and further interviews.
Everybody who got involved in this project has or was connected to this place in some way, shape or form. They're either people who'd been on committees here, they were audience members, volunteers, there were people who come and give the talks, or people who would have done maybe some of the heritage or cultural walks. So everybody who got involved was connected to this network of the XPO. And that was important to me, because I really wanted to work with a group of people who had that kind of vested interest in the ideas that are key to this place.
To chair a panel of really interesting speakers today. And we're going to be talking about the Folk Radio Project and the potential of...
It's been actually really, really enriching experience, I think, for everybody involved. They've sort of at the very beginning, they've learned to make radio programmes, from how to record for a radio programme, how to think about editing it and adding sound and effects and so on, right through to producing programmes in length of 10 minutes to over an hour, which are part of the folk radio broadcasting schedule.
Around place. And I should also say we have Katie Moylan, who's coming in on the phone from the States. Expo has served as a kind of social hub, and it's activated, but different groups use it in different kinds of ways. So on Mondays there's a singers group, on Wednesdays there's a mapping group who've done extraordinary work. So I'm going to ask each of you to talk. Tom has kind of facilitated people coming and making their own programmes about Kilnaboy, and about the area and the Burren and how we engage with the region. Whether from a farming perspective or an environmental perspective or a socio-cultural perspective. So Tom's work has been very much about both facilitating people to share those individual perspectives. So there's this kind of excavation of multiple histories in different voices been going on through the Folk Radio Project.
Everything that you're doing here, between the talks, between the open sessions, between like all the other activities that you run here and like walks and stuff like this that you guys do, like it's sacrifice.
The program has everything from more traditional formats, like we have some Irish language type programming, we have interview sessions, we have discussions and conversations, we have documentary projects. There's a number of documentary projects are produced. We also have this kind of work alongside very experimental projects. So we've worked from experimental musicians. We have artists, a number of local artists got involved and produced experimental works. For example, Tanya Harris did a very interesting piece in one of the local caves where she experimented with resonant sounds and the human voice. Very fascinating stuff. So a right kind of mix of items were produced, and incredible amount of participation. Really, when I put it all together in the end, I think there was well over 70 participants in the project.
It appeals to Irish people's love of radio. We're really, really high radio listeners. If you kind of compare us to the figures of radio listeners in Europe, I think it's 8 out of 10 is the figure that you hear. So that's kind of a medium that we're really engaged with. And we were really interested in using radio as a medium to also engage people in thinking about art practice in different ways. So I kind of think that it operates almost in a stealthy way.
So all of the podcasts and everything are available to listen back to online. I think it was a really successful project. I think we had a really interesting open day here with panel discussions and interviews. We had programs there that explored all of the various archive projects that were developed here at the XPO. I really think there's something of interest in the program for everybody, but I think for me, I I would hope that this radio was very much a proposition for a different way of thinking about what we can experience on the airwaves.
Oh, well, the banks are having their sweet time, cashing checks and making bets.
I hope that folk radio continues to serve the needs of the wider communities of Kilnaboy and to provide this kind of public space in the airwaves for people to say what it means to live in a place like North Clare.
Set up a number of different meetings, looking for interest in the community radio project for North Clare. Very positive response. The names touted like Burn FM and things like this. So I'm really hoping that we have another meeting in March, and I'm going to help facilitate a group of people to progress that project and hopefully get a license. Because at the end of the day, there's a station set up here, fully functioning, with transmission and all that, and it wouldn't be too much of an effort for a group to come together and apply for license and get broadcasting straight away here, but in a different kind of remit, something that's a little more community radios, let's say, versus the type of project that I would have instigated.
Are you ready for the show? Stand up.